Han Ji-woo does not fit in at South Korea's most prestigious high school, where the top 1% gather. He used to be the smartest student in his old humble school, but now that he is surrounded by geniuses, he is one step from the bottom of the class, particularly in math, which is regarded as the most important subject for college admission. His classmates are wealthy and can afford tutors and boot camps, but Ji-woo is on student welfare and cannot afford such things. Mr. Kim Gun-ho, his math teacher, reminds him that these grades will not be enough to get into a prestigious college and asks Ji-woo to consider transferring. One night, Ji-woo's roommates give him money to sneak out and get snacks and alcohol for everyone, but on his way back, Ji-woo is apprehended by night guard Lee Hak-sung. The following morning, Mr. Kim attempts to persuade Ji-woo to reveal who else was involved in the plan, but Ji-woo values loyalty and chooses to stay silent. This piques the interest of his classmate Park Bo-ram, but it also results in his temporary expulsion from the dorms. His roommates try to give him money as a thank you after class, but are shocked to hear that Ji-woo declines because they are friends. They discuss the possibility of bringing in late-night snacks via alternative routes, but this has been impossible since Hak-sung began working as a guard. He is a defector from North Korea, so they call him the Kami officer. Hak-sung later visits his doctor, who tells him that working as a night guard is bad for his health and that taking sleeping pills disrupts his biorhythm. Hak-sung reminds him that it is the only job he can get as a defector, so unless the doctor can find him another job, he will take the pills. Hak-sung then returns to his lonely apartment, where he spends time feeding his turtle, drinking strawberry milk, and solving Sudoku puzzles. Ji-woo is kicked out of the dorms the following day. On his way out, Bo-ram teases him, saying she thought he could be more than a loser, but it turns out she was wrong. A couple of hours later, Ji-woo has returned to his family apartment, which he is cleaning before his mother returns from work. She is a widow who has worked extremely hard to raise her son, so she is overjoyed to see him in such an important uniform. Instead of telling her he needs a place to sleep, Ji-woo says he only came to see her and must turn back to school before it gets too late. Ji-woo tries to hide in the school's abandoned lab as it begins to rain on his way back, but he is found by Hak-sung. When the guard hears Ji-woo doesn't have a place to stay, he invites him back to his office. While Ji-woo sleeps, Hak-sung finds the very hard math work home that Ji-woo couldn't finish. As soon as the sun comes up, Hak-sung kicks Ji-woo out. The boy goes to his math class and is shocked to find that Hak-sung has completed his homework and that all of the answers are correct. Bo-ram notices this and asks Ji-woo to show the teacher, but she is asked to remain silent. After class, Ji-woo goes to thank Hak-sung for his assistance and asks him to teach him how to do it, but Hak-sung simply kicks him out. Later, in the study room, Ji-woo hears that even the private tutors of his class members are having trouble with some of these math problems, demonstrating how unique Hak-sung is. Ji-woo starts following him around, begging to be tutored, but Hak-sung ignores him. One afternoon, while taking out the trash, Hak-sung overhears the teachers discussing welfare students with uncaring parents and inferior complexes, and Mr. Kim adds Ji-woo to the list. When Ji-woo approaches him again to ask for tutoring, Hak-sung tells him it's better to transfer and that self-pity isn't a badge of honor because it causes you to become obsessed with tragedy. Ji-woo explains how angry he is that others have opportunities that he does not, so Hak-sung caves and accepts to tutor him. He only asks that Ji-woo pay him in strawberry milk. The next day, Hak-sung goes to see his friend in Ji-cheol, who helped him get to South Korea because he works as Seoul's North Korean defector support lead. When Ji-cheol gives Hak-sung the lamps he needed as a gift, Hak-sung insists on paying for them because he did not come to this country for charity. Together, they play board games and chat about life. When night falls, Hak-sung puts the lamps inside the abandoned lab to teach Ji-woo in secret. Ji-woo must follow 3 rules. First, no one should know about these classes. Second, no questions other than test questions. And third, Hak-sung will teach math but does not want to hear anything about grades or tests. After Ji-woo promises to follow all the rules, Hak-sung gives him the first exercise, find the area of a triangle. Ji-woo quickly solves the problem, pointing out that it's a middle school problem, but Hak-sung tells him he's wrong by drawing a full circle around it. Ji-woo, feeling duped, thinks it's unfair because Hak-sung has given him the wrong question, but Hak-sung's point is that he's approaching problem solving incorrectly. Yes, finding the answer is important. However, understanding what the question is even more important. Math is all about the process of finding a solution. When Ji-woo shows an understanding of the concept, Haksung calls it Epsilon, recalling a time when he and a friend received a fancy pen as a prize for their academic success. Epsilon denotes insignificance or triviality. Because Ji-woo still has no place to go after class, Haksung lets him stay with him. Ji-woo discovers that Haksung enjoys listening to classical music on an old cassette player, so they chat about classical composers for a while, which helps Haksung avoid Ji-woo's questions about his past. The cassette is worn out and has poor sound quality, so Ji-woo plays the songs on his phone, the quality of which fascinates Haksung and allows him to sleep soundly for the first time in ages. In fact, he stays in bed until late the next morning, and when he wakes up, Ji-woo has already left for class. Mr. Kim has some important news for his math students. Instead of finals, his class will compete in the prestigious Pythagoras math competition, which will serve as their exam. The teenagers are unhappy because they only have 2 months to practice, but Mr. Kim believes they will all win gold. Ji-woo goes to see Haksung for math classes every day, and Boram begins to notice how frequently Ji-woo buys strawberry milk, almost as if he was addicted. Haksung explains that he expects Ji-woo to add everything up manually one evening when there is a particularly hard exercise that he needs to know how to solve. Ji-woo solves it 3 hours later, so Haksung shows him something special. Famous mathematician Bernhard Riemann calculated 38 decimals of the square root of 2 by hand to become acquainted with the solving process, which cannot be accomplished simply by memorizing a formula. This is extremely beneficial for improving one's understanding of mathematics. Haksung refuses to tell Ji-woo if his answer is right or wrong because his homework will be to discover it himself. That's the job of a mathematician. Ji-woo's math skills improve day by day as the weeks pass. One afternoon, he receives devastating news. A close friend and fellow welfare student is transferring back to his old school, admitting that his time here was never worth it. Now Ji-woo needs to think about his own situation, and Boram tries to hear him out, but he feels like she's mocking him by saying they're in the same situation when she's also a wealthy child. When Boram's mother arrives to pick her up, their conversation is interrupted. When they get in the car, Boram is chastised for hanging out with a welfare kid. Boram is technically on welfare due to her divorced parents, but she is not on financial aid, so it isn't quite the same. Her mother also chastises her for listening to piano music. She wants Boram to focus on her studies, so she hires Mr. Kim as Boram's private tutor, which is illegal. Later that night, Ji-woo tells Haksung about his friend and wonders whether he should also transfer. Haksung encourages him not to give up and reminds him that the most important thing for success is not intelligence, the courage to persevere until the end. To prove his point, he shows Ji-woo the exercises he corrected. While there are some errors in the final solutions, the boy has correctly learned the process to solve them. Ji-woo's suspension ends that night, allowing him to return to the dorms, but he admits he misses sharing a room with Haksung. The next day, Boram gives him strawberry milk with an apology note, and when he gets distracted, she follows him to the abandoned lab and discovers his secret. She asks if she can come over from time to time, and Haksung accepts as long as she keeps it a secret after thanking her for taking care of Ji-woo. Boram also refers to him as a Kami officer, which confuses Haksung because, while he is from North Korea, he has never served in the military. He was exempted for reasons he will not explain. At that point, they notice a group of students sneaking around campus, but Haksung decides not to intervene because he knows what happened to Ji-woo the last time. Ji-woo asks Haksung why he studied math so hard another evening. He explains that he initially did it for the scholarship and the sake of his family, but as he learned more about it, the more beautiful it became, and he fell in love with it. Then they invite Boram to join Haksung at the piano so he can teach her a cool little trick. By assigning a note to each digit, the two of them create a beautiful melody by playing the number pi. During the following math class, Ji-woo corrects Mr. Kim's answer to an exercise using the logic Haksung taught him about incorrect questions. Mr. Kim, on the other hand, chastises him for it. The answer may be correct, but it is not what the examiner intended, and that is the only thing the students should be concerned about, providing the expected solution rather than the correct one. It's all about test technique, but Ji-woo refuses to accept this, claiming that he'll still give the correct answer on the test. Mr. Kim considers him rude for his attitude, so he makes him stand outside the door for the rest of class. Afterward, Ji-woo informs Mr. Kim that he will not be transferring. Ji-cheol gives Haksung a smartphone in the afternoon during another of his visits, making him easier to find. Haksung proudly shows it to Ji-woo later, and the boy can't help but notice he's reading lengthy theses on this tiny screen. To assist, Ji-woo asks a classmate to sneak him into the computer lab so he can print the entire document and present it to Haksung. The Pythagoras test takes place the following day. Ji-woo is doing great thanks to Haksung Haksung's lessons, and Boram begins well enough by remembering the music, but she quickly becomes frustrated. The pressure gets to her, and she leaves the classroom without finishing the exam. Her mother forces her to stay at home to avoid shame and lies to the school, claiming that they are going on a trip. When Jiwoo attempts to contact her, all of his texts are ignored. Jiwoo and Haksung attend a class concert in the evening that Boram secured for them at no cost thanks to the sponsorship of her family's business. Boram never shows up, but Haksung is so moved by it that he tears up. Afterward, Haksung invites Jiwoo to dinner at his place, which makes Jiwoo realize this is the first time he has seen Haksung eat. That same night, someone leaks the Pythagoras test on the internet, causing problems for the teachers, who must now find the student responsible if they do not want to be fired by the education board. Meanwhile, Jiwoo and Haksung visit a bookstore to do some shopping, and a stranger recognizes him. This man is also from North Korea and refers to Haksung as Doctor, remembering him from when Haksung taught classes at the university where he attended. The man also refers to Haksung as the famous mathematical genius and believes Jiwoo is his son, putting them in an awkward situation. Haksung thanks the man for the memory before leaving the store without answering Jiwoo's questions. When Haksung returns home, he recalls the good times he used to have with his son Lee Taeyeon, such as eating dinner together, getting the turtle, and purchasing strawberry milk because it was Taeyeon's favorite. The next day, some important news appears on television. The Riemann hypothesis, one of the most important mathematical problems, is about to be solved by a well-known North Korean named Lee Haksung. However, it is still being reviewed by a board of scholars. On television, Professor Oh tells the story of how he competed in a math Olympiad as a child and met Haksung, who represented the North while Oh represented the South. They were both given a fancy pen by a famous mathematician, which Oh still has today. Ji-Cheol and Jiwoo are both aware of the news, and Jiwoo is the first to approach Haksung and inquire about it. However, Haksung becomes enraged and orders him to never mention the Riemann hypothesis again. Meanwhile, Mr. Kim is struggling with the test incident because his reputation is on the line, but when a co-worker reviews the security tapes after a student spreads rumors, he finds solace. The next day, Mr. Kim calls Jiwoo and shows him the video of him sneaking out of the computer lab with some printed sheets in his hand. Jiwoo tries to explain that it's unrelated, but he can't prove it. Nobody will believe him because of the tape evidence and the fact that he magically improved his math skills in a matter of months, so Mr. Kim makes him a deal. If he accepts the transfer, he will not publicly blame him. Unfortunately, rumors that Jiwoo was responsible for the leak continue to circulate, and Boram is upset because she knows the truth. Ji-Cheol is also in trouble. The NIS wants Ji-Cheol to persuade Haksung to appear on television to clarify matters because North Korea is angry that the South is taking Haksung's achievements, especially since these discoveries are related to military encryption. Haksung's name is now all over the news, and an old colleague has even paid him a visit to persuade him to return to the North with him. However, he puts his foot in his mouth when he admits he's asking because bringing Haksung would also earn him forgiveness, and only a man can give him anger by bringing up what happened to his son. Ji-Cheol pays a visit to Haksung to apologize for failing to keep the NIS off his back, but Haksung is still grateful for all the years of protection. While Haksung is packing to leave town, Ji-Cheol returns the document containing his research, which Haksung attempted to throw away years ago but Ji-Cheol saved because it was too valuable to be discarded. Jiwoo arrives at that moment, but when he hears yelling, he decides to stay outside. Haksung is angry because his son's life was cost by this research, so he refuses to put it on television. Jiwoo tries to talk to Haksung after Ji-Cheol leaves, but the old man lashes out at him, refusing to accept their relationship as anything more than tutor and student. Jiwoo then receives a call from an upset Boram, who is perplexed as to why he is allowing them to frame him in this manner, but he simply tells her it is over and hangs up. In the meantime, Haksung arrives at the bus station and begins to remember the night Taeyeon died when he thinks he saw his son's face in a random stranger. After getting into another fight for defending fellow defectors, Taeyeon began arguing with his son, accusing him of fleeing to the south for selfish reasons because he did not do so when his mother was sick with tuberculosis. Haksung claimed he did it to give his son a better life, but Taeyeon pointed out that working entry-level jobs and being treated like dirt was far from a better life for a scholar. Taeyeon fled and attempted to swim back to the north after wishing his dad could enjoy his life with only math for company, but was shot on sight by Border Patrol. Returning to Ji-woo, he sneaks into his home while she is sleeping to use his mother's stamp on the transfer papers. The following morning, he hands over the papers to Mr. Kim, who tells him he did the right thing. Haksung is hiding in a hotel while Ji-cheol searches for him to take him to the TV show, and he is surprised to receive a phone call from Boram informing him of Ji-woo's transfer. The Pythagoras Award ceremony takes place that afternoon. Ji-woo is on his way out of school when Boram and her suddenly arrive and drag him to the auditorium by stealing his belongings. Professor Oh opens the ceremony with a speech about the recently proven theory, and that's when Haksung decides to interrupt, having rushed over to the school after freeing his turtle in the river. Professor Oh receives him with open arms and invites him to give a speech after he presents his pen as proof of his identity. After making a joke about his work as a guard, Haksung admits to teaching Ji-woo math and presents the printed thesis as proof that he did not leak the test. He also reveals that Mr. Kim was the one who leaked the test to his private students, causing Mr. Kim to leave in anger and shame. Then Haksung tells his story. He defected from North Korea so he could study math properly, because his own government was using his research to develop weapons. He wants to use his math to find jobs and get into good colleges, but his greed cost him his son's life. Haksung is ashamed of his decisions, but Ji-woo never saw him that way and continued to stay loyal to his secret until the end, even if it cost him his future. Crying, Haksung apologizes and thanks Ji-woo for believing in him, and such a speech causes Ji-cheol, who has been listening all along, to leave without even asking about the television interview. He does, however, wait for Haksung outside and offers him a ride. Ji-cheol reveals a little surprise for Haksung after discarding the gift he had given him, a new, legal smartphone port that identifies him as a South Korean citizen, as well as tickets for him to leave town so the NIS cannot find him for a while. Ji-cheol thinks it's worth it even though he'll probably get fired for it. Ji-cheol visits Ji-woo sometime later to give him the gift Haksung left for him, the famous pen and the first draft of his thesis. 3 years later, Ji-woo and his college classmates visit the prestigious Oberwolfach Research Institute for Mathematics. Haksung is now working there, and Ji-woo surprises him with some strawberry milk and a hug before launching into a lengthy discussion about math. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, leave a comment about your favorite movie, and we will make it next. Thanks for watching.